Monday to Saturday. I when I was on radio, I did a morning show, which means that I was at the radio station from about 6 a.m. Nothing is open yet. And I did an evening show, which ended at 7 p.m., at which point everything is closed. Plus, I worked Saturdays in the middle of the day, which most things close on Saturdays in the middle of the day. If there was an option, like, say, a bank that said, hey, man, 2 days for the week or 1 day for the week, we're going to open the bank, say, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It seems ridiculous. Like, oh, maybe, why would a bank open that late? But there are persons who don't get to take advantage of the normal business hours of some
Just
places.
like what you said in your example.
Just like me, I couldn't do it. Sometimes it would be weeks before I could actually make it to the bank because I have to look, well, what Saturday am I off? That I can go down there, or even something as simple as a haircut. Haircut were luxuries for me. Yeah, but I mean, I know Dwayne, Sterling don't have that problem. Like, the Lord helping you out there. He just making sure that you don't have nothing to worry about. But, I had to go out of my way to see, well, when can I go to the barber?
Yeah.
Because the barber closed by 7 o'clock. But if you just had a couple services, that opened at times you wouldn't expect, I think it would reduce that urge for people to say, I want a 4-day work week.
Yeah, but this is it, right? See, this is Jerry. You imagine what he could be like when he come back from university. Somewhere else say he could be premier. We'll see. All right, we're going to pause and take a break, but the phone lines are open, 949-8037. Of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
To the beat of the mobile revolution with Flow 4G LTE and a prepaid mobile combo plan. Activate a Flow prepaid mobile combo plan to get calling minutes and data in one convenient package, and every plan comes with double data. Enjoy the proven best overall experience in Cayman with a Flow prepaid mobile combo plan. Now with double data, coverage, value, speed. Flow 4G LTE. Always connected, always faster. Visit discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
Place household garbage in large bags prior to its placement in a garbage container to avoid spillage during collection. A suitable garbage container must be made of sturdy materials that will allow it to withstand weathering. A tightly fitted cover is also necessary to keep out water and stray animals. Do your part. Keep your surroundings clean. Store household garbage in a suitable garbage container. For more tips on proper waste packaging, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
JN Money in association with Roma United Sports Club presents the official Jamaica Independence celebrations under the distinguished patronage of the Honorary Jamaican Council on Friday, August 3rd. The celebration starts with the Culture Day downtown on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come out for breakfast and stay for lunch. Join Radio Cayman this Friday from 10 a.m. until noon.
Jamaica getting their independence, and everyone is happy
as we broadcast live from Cardinal Avenue during the day session of the official Jamaica Independence Celebration. 89.9 FM Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. In the studio, Ebanks joins us, and then at 1 o'clock, we get a chance to speak to Chief Officer Ms. Teresa Echenike and her Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Andre Ebanks. I'm looking forward to that discussion, man. Having them and being part of us, and certainly looking forward to having you in the studio, continue with us. But Jevy, as we were chatting earlier about this idea, of course the phone lines are open if those want to call and share their thoughts with us. This individual, like I said, he would be maybe in term to be in the HR sphere. Right? I see him as more than that, but he was saying that we're not weighing as a society from the perspective of public or private the efficiencies, not just the economies of scale, but the efficiencies, and we're not measuring productivity. Other than, well, it cost us $5, we sold it for 10, so we made a profit. So just that share difference between sales price and what it costs to produce the thing, right? But nothing else is going into weigh in. And when he talked about productivity, he said that it seems that we don't see, that there are other things that are measured. So if the employee is there 10 hours for the day and they made 10 widgets, well, one widget every hour, yeah, that's the productivity. But what's the quality of that? What were the other things? And this notion that in our small community, we haven't leveraged technology as we could. So
I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Like, we just catching up with contactless debit cards and credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. One came in my mail the other day, and I saw it and I'm like, I was wondering when we would get it. I agree. There are some areas where we can capitalize, but I think some people don't want to capitalize because it kind of removes that authenticity of a small run business, but it could improve that small run business.
Think of the time when you first saw, right? Not just you, but those who are listening. They saw someone, right, go into a business, movie theater, retail outlet, and what you thought was their cell phone, they put that up onto the little gadget and Gasman that they thought that was the payment portal, and that was how it paid. There was no debit or credit card, no cash, no check. There was no transaction other than this thing, which by all accounts was and is a cell phone or device of some nature, and that was the payment method. Right now, I remember when I was being tested and I saw people, and I thought, wow. Now, concerns, of course, about safety, security, and the like. But you imagine on your little thing in your hand, and people talk about, that's just the beginning of the mark of the beast, but different story.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit.
So your wallet and your phone and your music and your everything is just one thing, whatever that thing is, and you no longer have to worry about it. You can do all your online banking and like. Is that one of the challenges that in the Cayman marketplace? We have people at different levels. We have those who want this and those who still want to be able to physically go into the bank, for instance, and speak to that live person and give them a piece of paper and get back physical cash.
I think it's striking the balance where, let's be real, probably the biggest earners of a bank or who's doing more transactions may be that person who's still going into the bank. But there's a growing number of persons who are making a good, decent amount of money or who are still doing bank transactions, but they just can't go into the bank. And I think, banking is one of those areas where we need to catch up on, because even if you look at some of these local banks here that they have these banking apps, the banking apps, they're not optimized for your phone. They only optimize for a certain kind of iPhone and a certain two types of Androids, and it I think it reduces how efficiently a customer can interact with the bank. My goodness, some of these banks, the number just for style, Dwayne, Mr. Star. I don't know why I keep calling you Dwayne.
That's okay, boy. That's okay. You can call me that.
It's like the number is for style, because you call the number and don't nobody answer the number. And I just because I know somebody may sponsor this show, is why I'm not calling their names. But I swear it's just for style. And so if I had the option to just go on my phone, even if my father had the option, I believe my father would go on his phone, or anyone who's relatively new to social media or to media in general, would find a way if one way isn't working. And I think that's the biggest problem we have right now, is that we have one way really to get through with the bank, and that's going there. Or going there or calling them. And when you don't have those two options that are working, it makes it feel like, oh, this is the worst bank in the entire world. But if you had several options, where you could kind of get through, I feel there would be a little bit more pleasant attitude, when you're at the bank.
Yeah, well, when we look at that idea that in this context, we have all sorts of people. Let's take the online banking portals that we have here.
Right.
We had people who still to this day express concern that if they go to the bank physically with a check that is drawn on that bank, but they themselves are not customers of that bank, they have all sorts of challenges, including paying fees, right? I got a couple of comments here I want to share with you, but of course there are callers on the line, so let's go through our callers.
I'm so glad there's a caller, because I'm saved by the bell. The minute you say that, I'm ready to call out some banks. Let's go take the call.
All right, let's go take the call. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Giovanni Ebanks and Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you? How's the brat?
How are you, sir?
Good. Calling on the brat. We only have one bank, mind you. Did you know that? We only have one bank here, and it's Cayman National Bank, and I want to commend the CNB for being the only bank to have branches on all three Cayman Islands. No other bank can boast that. It's quite a long line, though, on a Friday afternoon. Maybe they might think of expanding in the future. I don't know. I can remember as a little boy on summer holidays, so before they built the bank down, they close to the airport, sweeping up the churchyard, and that bush there was actually used to, well, I won't say. But it's no longer there. I lived in Grand Cayman, came back to the BRAC and realized, wow, there's now a building here. So that's the BRAC, Cayman National. And we also have a branch of the credit union. That's it. Why I've called, though, is to wish everybody happy Emancipation Day. If I look to Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts, the Eastern Caribbean, Anguilla, if I go to Jamaica, everybody is celebrating today as Emancipation Day. I wonder why we don't celebrate it in Cayman. Could it be the fact that we're still shackled by the chains of colonialism, or we don't see the relevance of it? I think why we should celebrate it, though, is it wasn't until 1838 that these other Caribbean islands received their emancipation, August 1st, 1838, whereas here in the Cayman Islands, we got ours from May 1835. So we should be celebrating today, but it makes people nervous. No one wants to talk about the history of slavery. Nobody, our Caymanian students, do not know about Long Celia, who Long Celia was, a Caymanian slave who was rebellious before she was freed. We know about Sam Sharp and Nanny. They're Jamaican national heroes. But what about our own heroes who would have rebelled to the oppression? So we need to pause today. I'm wearing my African dashiki and remember from whence we have come. I'll end by saying we had a great show on Saturday night. Quincy and Friends, produced by Backyard Caboose Theatre Company, BCTC, Black Community Theatre Company. Everyone who participated, a huge thank you. Thankful for the money that was raised.
Excellent. Now, Quincy, before we go, because when you look at Emancipation Day, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Today, a number of other Caribbean islands, including Trinidad and Tobago, would celebrate, but we see some back in April, May, who had celebrated, some in March, and even Puerto Rico was celebrating. So throughout the Caribbean region in particular, emancipation was celebrated at different times of the month, right? Not just in August, or not just today, or even in August. The Turks could celebrate theirs in about 5 days' time or so, right? So when we look at that in a sense of identifying who we are and unifying the country, how do we see that both from our perspective in Cayman, but our perspective within the Caribbean?
I think we join with our Trinidadian petitions, intentions, and Trinidadian and Tobagonians, our Jamaicans. We join with them today in celebrating because they are aware of their struggle. They are aware of from whence they have come. We not reached that point yet. We're talking about banking and financial center and how much money we got. We're counting all of the millions and millions of dollars we got here that's not our money anyway, hedge funds, foreign financial interests. And we're still struggling because to be independent, to be emancipated is to be free from political control of another country. It's to be independent. It's to be free from social control. It's to be free of slavery.
Well, the words of Robert Nesta Marley, right? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
And the fact, you might want to admit it, it's not something that is fashionable to talk about, but any country that promotes a work permit system over their own people, you're enslaving your own people, and then you're indentured servanting the other ones in that's coming in and hold them by a leash because of a work permit. So there are a lot of issues we face here, but we will get there, I hope. And we celebrate our Constitution Day. We celebrate Discovery Day. We're even celebrating our coat of arms this year as it's the 60th anniversary. But still, there is no talk of Caymanians celebrating Emancipation Day in the Cayman Islands. So what do? We have over 135 nationalities represented here. We're celebrating with those that are celebrating their big day. You know, the Jamaicans will be celebrating their independence August 6th. And they combine the two. Emancipation Day, Independence Day. So we celebrate with them. We stay in Cayman. We make our lots of money, but then we respect and enjoy our third world, brothers and sisters, who are far ahead than we are. Happy emancipation.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank you. A couple of points there, but a couple of questions here on the WhatsApp.
Let's do it.
Let's hit them when we come back. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Hi, I'm Brother John. On behalf of the pastors and the congregation of the Wesleyan Holiness Church, we invite you to join with us, the Wesleyan Holiness Church in Georgetown, for our Sunday worship at 11 a.m., located at 174 Anthony Drive in Windsor Park. For more information on our services, please visit us or call us at 548-0874. The Wesleyan Holiness Church is a place of worship and fellowship. Come worship with us this Sunday at 11 a.m. and other weekly services.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after,
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after,
visit britk.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit-K, where people come first.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah! And they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly! And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Hi, this is Derry Dakers-Lee, chairperson for the Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee. The committee is inviting you to our pageant on 11th August at the Westin. Dress code is formal. Join us for cocktails at 6 p.m. The pageant will start at 7 p.m. Tickets for adults and children can be purchased for $75 at Sand Angels and Funky Tangs. Come out and show your support for the 7 young ladies vying for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will proudly represent us at the Miss Universe pageant in December. See you at the Westin on August 11th.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, Javi Ebanks joins us. Phone lines are open and you got to call her. Let's go straight to her phones. Hey, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and your co-host, Peter Schmidt here.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
I'm not bad, thank you.
Right.
And yourself?
Oh, very, very thankful, man.
Good.
Very thankful.
I just thought that also, since you were talking about celebrations, etc., with the previous caller, I said, well, I will give it also a call. Today is a double celebration for our family, and that is, of course, that my spouse of almost 47 years has a birthday.
Right.
And Susan already wished her a happy birthday earlier this morning.
Wow.
And secondly, it is also the National Independence Day of Switzerland on the 1st of August.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that was the criteria by which I selected a wife, but it just turned out like that.
I love this guy.
And who selected who in any event, right? Right. So, it's 1291 is when the original part of Switzerland took independence. It wasn't granted, it was taken by force. It is a long history, 727 years. Many things have happened. Switzerland has changed many times and many ways since then, but it is the original date that we celebrate. A relatively small Swiss community on this island, so it kind of gets overshadowed with the Jamaican independence, which follows in a couple of days, and that's only natural.
Right.
But nevertheless, worthy of mention.
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought I'd give you all a quick call, and just to say that Switzerland is celebrating its independence today.
I want to say a happy independence to everyone in our nation from Switzerland. I wanted to explain to you, caller, why it is that it sometimes seems overshowered. That's because Caribbean people have a way of celebrating that no one else can. They might, Emancipation Day might be today, but we're going to be celebrating that for a good week. And plus Jamaica independence coming up. They're going to be cooking for 4 or 5 days. You don't got to worry about this. The celebrations are no longer one day anymore. We have week-long celebrations. But, he's right. Equally, people from Switzerland, happy Independence Day to you guys. Happy Emancipation Day to everyone listening, and happy birthday to your wife, 47 years, that's a very long time. Many people don't get to see one, much less 47. And it proves that,
Yeah, man.
Ooh,
well, sure.
Love you.
Anything I will say in response to that could have very complicated repercussions, so I will reserve my comments.
You're a wise man.
I love it. I love it. I feel your wife is listening, isn't she?
She is within earshot, yes.
Oh.
And her hearing is much better than mine.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So,
you can do better, miss.
It could be very, dangerous for me to make any kind of
I 100%
comment.
agree.
There you go, man.
Yeah, but one more thing I just wanted to say by what you said just now, and the part that grabbed my attention was that you say they don't celebrate things one day anymore, whereas in many other countries, celebrations that used to be longer are now much shorter, much condensed, because people have such busy lives and they just won't give that much time even to things that they may deem to be very important or have been very important in the past. So that was actually quite surprising that you said,
right.
We in the West Indies, we don't celebrate things just one day anymore. There are 4 or 5 days of cooking and this and that. And I understand that, but it's perhaps a little bit counter the methodology in which the rest of the world is driving. No doubt, also largely because we have such wide disparity in the people, in the citizens of the country or residents of a country.
That's a fair point there, caller. I definitely see your train of thought there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
thank you again,
I wish
man.
you all a very pleasant day,
all right.
and we'll talk again soon.
Hopefully very soon. Thanks again. Happy birthday as well to Shirley. But this is the beauty of Cayman. As you were sharing, Jeffy, you go anywhere, and we probably don't always appreciate what Cayman is. The ability to pick up the phone and call. Now we've passed laws and put in place policies and protocols to say, well, if you do that now, you got to be careful. You're not creating some problem of perception of impropriety or the like. Just because you call and the person answering the phone, you might actually know the person, or you know of the person, or the person knows of you, and so they're very amenable, very professional, cordial, and they're going to assist you. Well, what you need to do is actually call so and so.
Dude, we're kind of talking about holidays and stuff. You know, one thing that came to mind a while ago is religious holidays. Maybe you could correct me, or a caller can tell me. Do we have any allowance? You know, in terms of the employment law for like religious holidays. For example, we're a Christian-based society, and so our religious holidays, Christmas and Easter, are naturally off. But what about somebody? I'm just wondering. I don't know. Somebody who, you know, may probably celebrate Rosh Hashanah, for example.
Kwanzaa or whatever.
Kwanzaa, you know. By the way, I support, you know, them having the day off, because if you off, I'm off. You know, but is there an allowance for that? You know, for somebody who might claim religious holidays?
Let me actually flip that on you. People who are employed in Cayman by companies operating here on a public holiday, whether that's Constitution Day in July, whether that was the Queen's birthday, Discovery Day, doesn't matter, right? Those days that are public holidays. Those people, not talking about those on shift work or in hospitality,
right?
Just maybe limited to financial sector. Those people are required to go to work on those public holidays. So whereas most of the other organizations are off, there are a number of employees in Cayman, Caymanians included, not just other people, who are required to go to work on those days. Not because they're trading in the markets and the market's open elsewhere. Talking about the organization saying, no, it's not our holiday, even though they're operating on the,
I was working at a company where the company was an American-based company, but they had a version of it in the Cayman Islands, and they were very considerate of Cayman public holidays and American public holidays. At the time, it probably still is. That staff was primarily American. In a case like that, I know as a staff member, I had a choice. So, when I was saying, I could pick that I will observe American holidays, or I can pick that I'm going to observe Cayman holidays. So as a Caymanian, I opted for Caymanian holidays, and the Americans opted for the Americans. So, on American public holidays, those who opted for Caymanian would still come into work. And then on Caymanian holidays, the Caymanians didn't come into work. So,
right.
It was a bit of a choice.
Which is reasonable and understandable, but to imagine that you're told by your employer.
Yeah.
That, today's a Monday holiday.
You have to come in.
That's not really how it works. That's just a regular day for us because we don't see it.
But I've also, like I said earlier, I worked at the airport where, I understood by taking a job that it would require me to work on public holidays. So if that's a contract that you sign,
that's different.
Where you said, hey, I'm okay, but for you to go in thinking that you're going to get public holiday off, and then the public holiday comes and then you don't have it off, I feel that's unfair.
Yeah, that's a different line of work. I mean,
right.
But I'm talking about, specific in that sector.
Right.
All right. We've got the news break looming. I think our guests are in the wing somewhere. We'll see. Not in the wind, in the wing. So when we come back, we'll talk today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
A man is in the hospital after he's stabbed by a man on a bike at East End on Thursday. Police and emergency services were dispatched just after 5:15 p.m. to a residence on Seaview Road in East End. Police say the victim was stabbed standing outside the residence, where a man he knew rode up and attacked him. Police are searching for the suspect and say if you have any information to call the Bodden Town Police Station at 947-2220. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, troops have opened fire in Zimbabwe's capital Harare after opposition supporters went on the rampage. At least one man was shot dead by the army, reports from the scene say. Another was shot and wounded by police. The MDC alliance alleges the PF party has rigged Monday's presidential and parliamentary votes. 90 people at a single beach in Germany were treated for jellyfish stings in just 3 days amid a surge of the creatures in European waters. Regional newspaper Ostsee-Zeitung said tens of thousands of lion's mane jellyfish washed ashore at the weekend. The lion's mane is the largest jellyfish species, and while its sting is rarely fatal, it often requires medical attention. And Facebook and Instagram are releasing a new tool to limit how much time people spend on their apps. The announcement follows concerns that excessive social media use can have a negative impact on mental health. Users will now be able to check how much time they've spent scrolling, set a reminder for when they've reached their allotted time, and mute notifications for a period of time. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And in the studio, Javi Ebanks sits with us. Javi, I want to share, if you don't mind, hopefully they won't embarrass you, message on the WhatsApp. It says, I hope the breastfeeding panel realized just how much Javi contributed to their efforts yesterday to get their message across.
Thank you.
I thought Javi's questions were very pertinent, very important, and then 3 hand claps.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
It wasn't
so
your
much.
mom. I just kidding.
I know, right?
I just kidding. No, but the thing is that sometimes in discussions you get a fresh perspective. You get people who laugh a little bit, and it reminds us. So as we get set up shortly, we'll do it. But to the callers before, as we were discussing, and until we get our guests all settled in, we'll all have a chance to share. But sitting here, sometimes you don't realize how people get a chance to think, and to talk and to share and to interact.
That's what the show is for, right?
Yeah.
It's,
that's what it's supposed to be.
It's so that people can understand. I think if you understand how someone thinks, you might not necessarily agree with them, but you're going to be more understanding to why they make the decisions that they make. And I think that's why shows like this are so important, and that's why, I sometimes get frustrated, if a caller or a texter or, anyone feels hesitant in saying what they want to say,
Don't be, man. I mean, our society's not healthy.
I've said so much stuff on radio during my time, and I didn't get fired yet, and I want to thank you, God. But the reason I did it is because I wanted whoever was calling into me, for them to feel as comfortable saying what they want to say as what I wanted to say, and I think it's really important that, you can't go to some of your family house and really say what's on your mind, like just, man, I really think this is bad with the country, because they gonna get upset. It's like, you don't gotta get upset. I have people in my family who I got political differences with, when it comes to policies and stuff, but
why is that though? Do you think, whether it's your family or close friends, whether it's just a somewhat casual private conversation, or whether it's an on-air discussion, let's say in the talk shows, John calls in and says, A, B, C, D, and then Gene should be either supportive or going to be counter what John just said. Why is it that we don't do that? We take it personal, we get petty. What's the deal?
I don't know. I think it is because we're such a small community, and because we're the small community and we know everybody, it feels so much easier to take sides. But I think it's important that we realize this is not a side taking thing. It's here is a problem. You are entitled to think about that problem and how you would like to see that resolved. The way you think is right, and I have the same right to be able to think what I would want to think and to see how that situation would play out. And I think that level of understanding is is missing, because we believe that if I don't agree with you or if I don't understand you, that I automatically hate you or that I'm automatically going to discriminate against you. And I have friends where we're on the political spectrum, on two opposite ends, and we can still have a conversation, we can still have reasonable debates, but it's never going to get to the point where we hate, one another. We're always going to be friends and family, and I think more of us need to get to that point where we can do that no matter where we are.
Let's get into the Calling Circle, right?
That's right.
The Friends and Family Calling Circle.
I know, right?
Well, as promised, we have an opportunity to welcome to our studio the Chief Officer in the Ministry of Community Affairs, Ms. Teresa Chinike, and her deputy, Mr. Andre Ebanks. It's a pleasure, man, to include you guys, to invite you sort of formally to our studio. Ms. Teresa, always a pleasure.
It is indeed always a pleasure to be here with you, and pleasant good afternoon to your listening audience. It would be remiss of me not to take this opportunity by seeing Javi here to say a special congratulations to him and wish him all the best in his studies overseas. I'm not sure that I'll have this opportunity again, so I wanted to say all the best to you.
Thank you, and good morning to you. I was so scared when I saw her came in, because I've known her from the Harkwell, and if anyone knows me from the Harkwell, then they know me at my worst behavior. And so I was a bit concerned when she walked in the room. I was like, what is she going to say? But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You can breathe now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Andre, welcome to man. Thank you for coming on board.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your listeners.
All right. As I was thinking, and as Teresa was sharing, Javi, hopefully we're not heaping on you, too much of a burden, for your broad shoulders to take. But it's the pride that we have when we can still call you young, right?
Yeah, of course, Dwayne. I know by you, Dwayne. Everyone in this room is young,
Compared to me,
it's
always
okay. We're sitting on the young side of the studio.
Oh, you're smart. and as much as so let's say a country could have its own university system, the top tier university. If that country is large enough that the people could leave that particular section of the country they grew up in and go to another section, that's important. If it's like us, go overseas somewhere for a semester, for a year, for a particular course of study. That experience, so Javi, we want you to succeed,
Definitely.
but certainly,
thank you.
Want you to give you that send off so that you never forget where the love is, where home is.
Yeah, absolutely, you can never forget Cayman, man. Cayman is always going to be home.
Right.
Where else got turtle stew and conch? Please,
Exactly.
It's like the top priority for considering a place to call home.
Yes. And indeed, we are proud, not only of Javi, but of the various students that we have going off and furthering their education. And we have a lot of talented young people in our community.
Yes.
And they're doing an amazing job in contributing significantly to our country now, but we also see what their future contributions will be as well, based on their line of studies, based on how well they're doing now. And, we oftentimes hear some of the not so good news. When we have positive and productive stories, I think that we should indeed highlight them, and we should indeed get that message across. And I'm very proud of Javi and all of the other students that take the opportunity to go off and study overseas, but also the students that are here. I just recently spoke to a young man who is working with computer services, and then he's also doing classes at ICCI in the evening. So he's doing a juggling act. But again, the determination is there, that the productivity is there. And so we're really, really proud and always willing to highlight these positive efforts.
I stand behind that 100%, man. You have some of the people who were granted this scholarship I was granted, man. They're studying in fields I didn't even know that there was interest for that in Cayman, and they're all young Caymanians, man. So, I know that they can do it.
Indeed.
Well, this is it, and this is why I think that's very fitting that Javi sits in here with us. I'm grateful for us as a people to be able to highlight some errors, and as they go on eventually, like you said, Mr. Teresa, whether they're studying here and working, or whether they are, for whatever reason, they're not able to go overseas, family commitments, financial and otherwise, but to be expected to excel because we're there to support, nurture them. Now, as a chief officer in Ministry of Community Affairs, for those of us who know of you, know that that's been your passion, that idea of serving the country. For those who maybe get a chance to have a formal introduction of, who is Ms. Teresa, our role as chief officer, would you share with us?
I'm going to give you in a nutshell because I think truly my years within government and some of my exposure, I could probably take our entire time to talk about. So I'm going to try my best to give in a nutshell. I've been with the Cayman Islands government for about 24 years now. And it's always been in the helping area. I started off with, at that point, it was called social services, and worked there for several years, moved into probation and aftercare services, which is for adult offenders, and then moved into the ministry. And so it's always been my area. It's where my training and background has been. And I think if I truly was to step back and think about my career and the path that I've taken, it's always been there from as young as I can remember. I've always been involved with a family that have been helping and involved with the community. And so what I knew was whenever people are in need, you reach out, you help. I knew that growing up. I knew that within my family. And it was just a natural course for me to build my career on this. So my first degree is in social work, and I've carried my career in that direction to date. As chief officer now, it is more responsibility and a broader perspective. I think my focus is now different, but the subject areas are basically the same. So the Ministry of Community Affairs have responsibility for two key departments, being Department of Children and Family Services and the Needs Assessment Unit. And again, those are key areas within our community. And when we look at the services that those organizations offer, it is so important for us to think that if those areas are not functioning at their highest potential, our country on a whole will have significant problems. We have a responsibility to address some of the social issues, to be very forward thinking, because we see the implications when we have in other jurisdictions, and even right here in our island, when we have situations of social issues impacting any community. It has a trickling effect, so it can impact your tourism, it can impact your financial sector. So this area is so important for us to look at and take into consideration, and to ensure that areas that need to be addressed, that we are doing the best that we can to address them, to enhance our services, to work with the people that are struggling in our country. So that's what Andre and I are here to do. We're in the ministry, and we have an excellent team that we're working with, full of energy and very knowledgeable. And so we're excited to continue to work with the various departments, public and private entities that contribute to services, and develop our social structure, and truly look at how we can enhance the areas that need to be enhanced.
Madam Chief Officer, Thank you for that. That's great. But if I can ask you, what would you say are the main priorities, for your the ministry that you're in? Like, we have the Department of Children and Family Services, but what are the key issues that you guys are kind of working on now that maybe the public don't really know?
Wow. Javi, there's so much that we're looking at, and there's a lot of foundational pieces that have been in place, but we know within this area it's always evolving. There's always a need for us to assess and adjust. Some of the things that we are looking at is legislation, for example. Andre is very much involved with the review of the poor relief law. And so I will invite him in a while to speak on that. But other areas that we are also looking at is the adoption law, so that we can ensure that that is also updated. And work prior to us coming in was also done with the children's law. And it's also about getting that, some reviews to that is also necessary. So ensuring that those are finalized. So from a legal perspective or from legislation perspective, those are the areas that we're working on. But other key areas from a more general perspective is about looking at enhancing our services as it relates to older persons, enhancing services as it relates to our children and our young people. We also are looking at gender and equality in that. There's just so much that, again, this area covers from a needs assessment perspective or needs assessment unit perspective. We are also looking at what is it that we can do to not continue to be seen by the public as an agency that hand out services, but rather as an agency that empowers the people that we have to work with. We know that not everybody is as fortunate as us, and people go through challenges in their life. So when these people are faced with those challenges, what is it that we can do to not hand out items to them? Yes, we want to give them support, but what else can we do to truly empower them and to work with private sector or to work with our other agencies to ensure that we're taking a holistic approach to this? Because we realize that one agency, one ministry can't do it on our own. Right. So it's important that we work very closely with private sector, but with our partner government agencies as well. So it's a lot that we're trying to accomplish, and to truly say what we're prioritizing, we're working on all of these things.
Once we get back then, let's talk more. Maybe Andre can give us a perspective from you and share, your introduction as well. And for those who are listening, we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Under the distinguished patronage of the Jamaican Consulate, Crystal Promotion presents Jamaica's 56th Independence Celebration in the form of fruits and culture. Saturday, August 4th at Lion Center. Performing live, former member of the I-Threes, Marsha Griffiths. I shall sing. Glenn Washington. Let's rise and shine and give Professor Nuts. Anthony Malvo. Andrew Priest and MC Linkage from Linkage Radio, New York City. Gate open 6 p.m., showtime 7 p.m. Admission 25 pre-sale, 30 at the gate. It's Roots and Culture, Saturday, August 4th at Lion Center. Celebrating Jamaica's 56th year of independence. Sponsored by J. and Money, Radio Cayman and Hot 104.1 FM.
I see the fire spreading. It's getting hotter and hot.
Hi, this is your reigning queen, Miss Cayman Islands Universe 2017, Anika Connolly. Join me on Saturday, 11th of August at the Westin Resort and Spa to find out which one of the 7 beautiful contestants will take over my crown. I'm excited to announce that pageant tickets are now on sale at Sand Angels in Camana Bay and Funky Tangs in Georgetown.
Come out on August 11th at the Westin to support us for
the Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant. There will be a cocktail reception at 6 p.m. and the show starts at 7 p.m. sharp. Lights, camera, glitz. We hope to see you there.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken chair.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken chair.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC. Just $12 each. And it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and truly a special thanks to both Chief Officer Ejnika and her Deputy Andrew Ebanks for joining us. And Jevi, this is going to be a good afternoon. The things that we can get involved in and be a part of, always productive. Huh?
I kind of know what's coming, but I just really want Miss Therese right now to just say everything that she have planned for us today, because I really want the audience to get excited too. Like, I'm gonna need you to go through that list again. That list is touching my heart. How about we start from the bottom and work our way up?
No. We'll get there. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta start at the top, work your way down. But as we get in through, the vision and the passion, the enthusiasm, but also the competence and the commitment. Now, people who are familiar with you, Ms. Theresa, as you shared 24 years in the ministry. I remember when you took up your first post and come back from university. It's a dedication commitment. Andre, likewise, whether in the private sector, whether over in the government, the acumen as well. But share with us, tell the public a little bit about yourself.
It's amazing to me, the more I listen to the chief officer. We've gotten to know each other since we've been in post since March of this year. And we've done a few media appearances. That our paths couldn't be more different, but our passions and our interests are so linked. I've been in the civil service 1/6 of the time that she has been. And I started out my career as a private sector lawyer, as you know. But then I sat at my desk one day at Walker's and just thought, there's more that you could be doing for the country with your time. It's great being an attorney. It's very satisfying work. But is there more that I could be doing to actually help the country with the skills that I acquired? So I made the jump to the civil service in financial services and had a perfectly interesting and rewarding ride as a senior legislative policy advisor. But then this opportunity came out unknown to me. And I saw it at the last second and saw that it required a lawyer, someone who'd been dealing with government policy, someone who had been dealing with gender affairs. I was previously on the Gender Equality Tribunal. I was one of the first members. And it also required someone who had some sort of academia in social work or sociology, and my first degrees in sociology. So I'm staring at the financial services ministry, knowing that those are the laws that I practiced when I was an attorney. But then staring at this job description that fits me as a person, and really thought to myself, where can I best help the country? And as the chief officer quite rightly said in her opening, if the area in which we're working now, community affairs, and also you can throw education into that, are not thriving, then financial services and tourism are impacted. So when I kind of did my hard look around and did my analysis, it seemed clear to me that I should devote the skills that I've acquired to this ministry. And that's how I got here, because I really want a thriving Cayman where our young people are coming out of school. You're listening to your experience and that you're going to go off to school. That's really what we're trying to achieve, whether school is away or whether it's on the island. You want a thriving economy. You want a bedrock on which this country is built. You don't want it built on sand. So our whole chief vision is to ensure that the numbers and the clients in our ministry decrease.
Just for full clarity for when we're having this conversation, you're the chief officer. You're the deputy chief officer. Just for clarity, who is the minister responsible for community affairs? Just so it's out there.
The premier.
Premier. Okay.
Yeah, the Honourable McLaughlin is our minister,
and he's supported by Councillor Harris.
So it's one of those ministries where he still has. I mean, we're really involved in democracy, right? The premier still has ministerial responsibilities,
yes,
as well as as premier, responsible for all his ministers. As well. But this is where I think the competence and the continuity of the civil service with people like yourselves, as we, not only operate a mobile, but we equip our people. That whether it's the person who's elected today is elected 50 years, and still there's that continuity. So that the technicians within the service and those policies, the vision, the development. Some would even use the phrase, nation building continues, the investment in our education, our infrastructure, and the like. From there, Chief Officer, when we look at the ministry, as Jerry asks, because sometimes we do get, even though we know who is the minister responsible, the general public goes, yeah. So thanks for sharing that, Jerry. But give us an overall description of the ministry. I mean, you started looking initially at it. I'm very interested for us to get to the point where we look at some of the organizations within the ministry, the MPOs in particular, but the ministry, the organizational structure, how it's set up, how it's sort of value added to the community.
Again, as I indicated, we have exceptional group of staff members, and so I want to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude and appreciation to the staff members within the ministry, within the departments, as well as throughout the NGOs that we work with. As we look at departments that are under our ministry, as previously indicated, the two key departments are the Department of Children and Family Services and the Needs Assessment Unit. However, right within our ministry, there are some specific focus areas. So the Gender Affairs team is also an interesting enough, that team consists right now of one woman. So we need to expand that team. But a special thank you to Miss Carleen Brumwell, who's doing an amazing job in that area. And she's working very, very closely with Mr. Ebanks to expand services and to ensure that, again, we're being very forward thinking as it relates to our gender services. And again, DCO, I'm sure, will speak further on that. also within our ministry, we have a small working team that's responsible for housing repairs. So that is also covered in the ministry. And then we also have ongoing purchase agreements and a close working relationship with Meals on Wheels, with the Rehab Aftercare program, and also with the Keys Foundation as well. Andre, have I missed anything? NCVO as well. Thank you very much. Yes. So these are all important organizations, important departments that contribute significantly to our community and to our people. And again, we used to make a joke years ago in social services that we worked from, birth to the grave. The reality of it is that that's exactly what our ministry covers. We cover all aspects with individuals from the time they're born and sometimes before they're born, straight into our aging population and unfortunately, when we have to provide burial assistance. So the scope of our work is extremely broad and sometimes rather complex.
And I think this is where we look at our society, not just its strength and value, but how it's perceived, the way we treat not only the most vulnerable in society, but the level of deference we show to each other. When you talk about your passion in sort of sociology and social work, your legal acumen and the like, as you bring that in now, from policy formulation to seeing, the implementation of some of that. What does that mean for you down the road, 10, 15 years now?
Oh, man. How much time do we have?
Tomorrow.
As I started off saying, that was one of the major attractions to the post, was to how do we move a set of persons who are on the client books now of, say, the needs assessment unit, and decrease those numbers, because growth in that area is not a good thing. I had to shift my mindset, whereas in financial services, growth is a great thing. Now I'm trying to shift my mindset that here we're trying to reduce those numbers and transform those persons from the station in their life they're in now to a station of self-sufficiency. And so one of the starting points in terms of a foundational piece is updating the poor relief law. It is back from 1997. It's about 5 paragraphs long. It is hopelessly out of date and needs to be updated. So we're doing a careful study of other jurisdictions that are comparable, so we don't have to expend too much time trying to reinvent the wheel, and looking to see that we can adopt legislation that fits within the Cayman context, not a complete copy and paste, but have something that's at least a starting point, and also to adapt to fit within the Cayman context to help really give the needs assessment unit a more modern tool to work from.
Now, when's that, for those who probably don't necessarily appreciate the process, we recognize the laws, the politicians will be the ones who go to the Legislative Assembly, and yes, there is the process by which laws introduced, debated, and passed, and then eventually becomes law, but there's a drafting as well, and then there's the implementation. What would drive it? The ministry and the staff saying, hey, we need the poor relief law. So now they did a law, there are things that have changed in our society. How do we deliver the assistance, and how would that go about?
The process is pretty much the same no matter what type of law you're working with. So initially we would go to cabinet to make a proposal to say that a particular law either needs to be changed or repealed and replaced. In this case, for the poor relief law, we're advocating for it to be repealed and replaced. Once you have that sign-off from cabinet, we would then go out to a broad consultation of all the affected stakeholders for that piece of legislation, consult on what the policy objectives are of the new law, get their feedback, and then proceed into legal drafting. Once legal drafting transform those policy objectives into written legal statute, we take that draft back among the stakeholders and again get their feedback. Because there's one thing to see the policy objective, you and I saying that we need A, B, and C, but how it's written on the paper could be different, and then you end up with a bad result. So it has to be read carefully, incorporate feedback, and then once parties are settled that this is a final draft that we think is meeting the objectives. You then take that back to cabinet, explain it to cabinet, have a presentation in a cabinet paper. If cabinet then approves, it then is gazetted as a green bill, and then that's the bill that goes down to the LA to be debated on the floor.
That's the agenda discussion. It may be accepted as is. There may be further debate, amendment, and
could be further amendments.
All right. With that in mind, when we look at this, for instance, poor relief law, at what point, if you can share with us, are we looking at maybe redrafting, repealing, restating the law? Is this an initial working, or are we somewhere along the process?
We are started a core working group among the ministry, the Needs Assessment Unit, the Department of Children and Family Services, and the Gender Unit to try to map out, one, the stakeholders that will be affected beyond our ministry and in the private sector, and what we believe the current state of affairs are and what the problem is with those current state of affairs. So that's happening now. Within a few weeks' time, we then want to go out to that wider stakeholder group and get their feedback, because what we think are the problems, they might have a whole other range of problems that we haven't considered, and get their feedback, and also how they think the problem should be addressed. After that wide consultation happens, then we would pull in legal drafting to actually, as I said, transform those objectives into statutory language. That
language there now, because as we can see, sometimes just the interpretation of it can have meaningful impact.
But I don't want to. I want your audience to appreciate that from my perspective, the core of the work is that consultation.
Yeah.
You get excited when you actually see the draft, because that's really where you can really mark progress. But to my mind, is a more of an appreciation for the process of going through the consultation. So by the time it hits the LA floor, you don't want any surprises. You don't want to feel that a core ministry or agency felt like, well, I wasn't consulted on. That's not going to work. And then there's a disaster.
Yeah. And Dwayne, I think that it's important for us to understand and appreciate that it's about continuously reviewing where we are, recognizing what is working, and also understanding and appreciating what is not working. So we're constantly having to go through an assessment process and review our services and review our laws and make adjustments as necessary. Part of that consultancy process is indeed to get feedback from the public. We're not going to sit here today and pretend to anyone that we know everything and we have all of the answers and all of the solutions. We might have some really good ideas and we might be really excited about the way forward, but we also understand that the public plays a key role. The other entities that we work with play a key role in this process, and we welcome feedback. We welcome when persons share information with us and give us their views and perspective on things, because sometimes we're making decisions based on the information that we have. If the public is aware of other pieces of information that we might not be aware of, we welcome them to share information with us, to give us their views and their perspective, because it's about not only what's beneficial to the ministry and to the government, but what is beneficial to our entire Cayman Islands.
Indeed. And the stakeholders, the actual clients who will be affected, who will have to operate under that law.
Indeed.
Well, let's talk more about that when we come back. Susan reminded me of a quick break. But for those who are joining us, Chief Officer Teresa Echenike, Deputy Chief Officer Andrew Ebanks are our guests. We invite you to listen, participate. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Place household garbage in large bags prior to its placement in a garbage container to avoid spillage during collection. A suitable garbage container must be made of sturdy materials that will allow it to withstand weathering. A tightly fitted cover is also necessary to keep out water and stray animals. Do your part. Keep your surroundings clean. Store household garbage in a suitable garbage container. For more tips on proper waste packaging, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Hi, I'm Brother John. On behalf of the pastors and the congregation of the Wesleyan Holiness Church, we invite you to join with us, the Wesleyan Holiness Church in Georgetown, for our Sunday worship at 11 a.m., located at 174 Anthony Drive in Windsor Park. For more information on our services, please visit us or call us at 548-0874. The Wesleyan Holiness Church is a place of worship and fellowship. Come worship with us this Sunday at 11 a.m. and other weekly services.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 if you want to join the discussion. Or you can WhatsApp. I haven't checked it in a while. I got a couple who sent some WhatsApps through Jevi. I should probably look at them in a bit. It's 925-3261. Jevi Ebanks sits with us. And what a way to end your appearance. You have to come back tomorrow for a little bit, man, Jevi.
I'm going to be in pain. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Chief Officer of the Ministry of Community Affairs, Ms. Teresa Shanika, joins us together with her Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Andre Ebanks. And as we look at moving societies forward, sometimes we don't appreciate, as you were just saying at the outset, that legislation, policies are not just driven by politicians on the floor of the Legislative Assembly and where that debate and discussion takes place, but it's all that happens beforehand. Andre, as you were talking earlier, that discourse, that discussion, that sort of public input and consultation beforehand is where we as a people can get more involved. You're affected by legislation. With great respect, to people in the financial sector, many times we've heard people say, oh, this, 15 pieces of legislation for the financial sector, it's come before the House, we didn't know about it. Well, you're probably not in the sector, may not have been consulted because you wasn't part of that, but would wider participation have been better? Here is where we can become much more informed as you go to the stakeholders. If I may ask, not to belabor it, not to get bogged down into that one particular thing, but for the poor relief law, are there particular things that are challenging to us, given the legislation is, a bit outdated somewhat? We're seeing it. I mean, for those of who had to have to look at it, in some instances, just even the terminology. But are there things that are glaring that need to be addressed? Or
I think, for me, it's a small thing. I mean, there's a bunch of things that need to be addressed. For example, the needs assessment unit has an eligibility criteria that, to me, needs to be put into legislation. The name is bad. Poor relief law. It just well, I think it's poor persons relief law. Just doesn't fit well. It doesn't give the right connotation. That, I think, needs to be changed. I also think that a lot of the processes that you go through need to be looked at first to see how they can be more enhanced, and make sure that that's also reflected. Maybe not necessarily in the primary law that goes to the LA, but in regulations underneath of it that actually governs the operation of the department. None of that is there right now. It needs to be put in.
I appreciate sharing that too, because as we look at it, sometimes, just generally speaking, when we look at legislation and if it's construed in such a way that it gives a limited interpretation, it may not allow that level of input or discretion that those technicians who are on the front line to benefit. The poor person's relief legislation in itself could be one of those things where in our society we see, let's say, three sectors. Those who are in this income bracket and may not necessarily find themselves having to worry financially about whether the child is able to participate in extracurricular activities, whether the family can take a vacation, whether there's money being saved. Then there are those at the very bottom for whom it's challenging. We have not paid our bills, not enough to do anything. But then what about those that somewhere along that spectrum, that scale, where yes, they're employed, they're working, they're paying bills, but not enough to do anything extra other than pay bills.
And you're raising a valid point, because the other thing that we have to look at, and this goes back to part of the consultation, is to figure out what exactly is the amount that ought to be given. Instead of us picking a number that fits into the budget, doing the analysis of this is the line in which you'd be considered poor.
I need assistance.
And you need assistance.
I can give you that line. Just go take it. I got a couple of friends who I went to UCCI with. We can help you to find that.
Yes. Bring it on. And then to your point, you also mentioned those who might be slightly above that line, but still really need a little bit of a supplement to get through life's daily needs.
Just to help them along the point, right? And I think the name of something, the way a program is perceived, it may, whether you want to call it pride or whatever else, it may preclude some people from accessing that. It may be that they want to access it, but they don't reach that threshold and they're not just there as yet. I think this is where that consultation.
He said something just a moment ago, addressing some of the procedural ways in which people are able to access help is a way that needs to be addressed. Could you expand a little more on that? Like maybe give an example of a particular procedure that happens now that you guys are looking to change to better change the way how people can access your help.
Well, in terms of where it's set out, we'd put that into the regulations. But in terms of the actual procedure, when you're talking about how someone walks in through the door, I'll give you an example. Are there things that can be done in this day and age technologically faster? So, for example, Councillor Harris went on to Cayman 27 and discussed whether we're looking at whether we can pay a landlord who's having a needs assessment unit client staying there for rent. Can we deliver that rental payment electronically rather than by paper? So are there technological advances that we can do? A lot of the clients, like you're sitting here, have a smartphone. Are there ways in which we can improve the way the client accesses services electronically rather than having to go down into town to go into the office to actually access the service? So there's legislation and there's regulation, but there's also looking at the actual processes that we're trying to study to see how we can make things swifter.
I'm glad that you addressed that point on processes, but I was hoping that you would have addressed the NAU particularly. The reason that I say that is there's been instances that I know of where someone is applying for help through the NAU and they go to the NAU and they say, well, what do I need in order to be qualified for help? And the person says, well, this is what you need. And they go and they get everything that the NAU person says they need. And they go back and say, oh, well, but you need a little bit more. And that happens 4 or 5 times before you say, oh, well, now you have everything. Is there a way that you guys are looking at that process to make sure that first time that person comes, they get everything as opposed to coming back 4 or 5 times?
I see what you mean, and this is exact. Well, NAU has their criteria on their website that sets out what's required. But again, that's another reason why it needs to be clearly marked in legislation and regulation so that you as the public can say, well, no, A through E is what I required to bring in. this is what I brought in, we're done. Now, there may be questions about whether or not A through E, if your passport is actually expired, that proves you that you'll have to follow up on.
Right.
But as long as you've brought in a perfect set of papers and you've ticked those boxes in the law, then you should be done.
But respectful though, I mean, it's not just NAU or other government agencies. Even the private sector, in the bank, how many times you apply for a mortgage or are you doing some transaction at the bank and you go speak to the person and you very, very deliberately say, hey, what do I need? Then you come back and the person say, oh, well, my supervisor say you need this and this. So that those goalposts change. In government, I think it happens. But
Javi raises a valid point, though, because at least from the bank is a private company that can say, well, this is part of our group policy, so the goalposts can change. But as a public entity, that may be their own. That's a good question to ask them as a private entity. Yeah. But as a public entity, to your point, it should be clearly set out in the law exactly, or the regulations, exactly what you need to bring.
I'll pick up on that second, but Madam,
Madam Chief.
See, we respect for the ladies.
Yeah, definitely. I heard her chime in, and I really wanted to hear what you said.
Sorry, Ms. Ebanks, but
I just wanted to piggyback on the discussion and to say that sometimes it is necessary that we have people come back and that we have we request additional information, because it is not everyone that walks through the door today that we can automatically, even when they're coming with what appears to be very comprehensive information, we might not be in a position to make a decision right here and now, because it might be that certain other checks need to take place. The checks and balances need to be there. We need to ensure that the person is indeed qualifying for the services. We also want to be in a position where we're looking at the individual circumstances and providing them with the right services for their needs. So sometimes it might take just a wee bit longer for us to make a decision, but we're doing it in the best interest of that individual. We're also ensuring that we are covering what we need to cover, in the sense that when we're providing, especially our financial assistance, we have to ensure that persons are coming into us and providing us with accurate information, and that they're not abusing the system in any way. So there's some checks and balances that would need to be done, and there are times when you bring in all of your information and we will look it over, but realize, well, based on this bank letter, for example, we might need some additional information from you on that. NAU also have to go through a process of checks with the banks as well to determine suitability. So all of these things takes time, but we also try to address those matters without disadvantaging an individual.
I'm very happy that you said that, because I don't think a lot of people understand that in order to get NAU services, exactly what you just said needs to happen. I've also been very critical in the past in terms of, how does the government communicate that to the public? Is there a way or that you guys have considered where the applicant is very very informed as to that process? And the reason I ask that is because when I make references to an NAU situation, I'm thinking of a particular person in mind who I knew, who was roughly my age, employed, but just needed help. And he was very unaware of what was happening in regards to his application. And I think that what you said, had he had known that, it would have reduced the level of frustration, where he, instead of saying, but NAU took 2 weeks to get back to me, he go, well, NAU said that they're going to take 3 days to get, a copy of something that I sent to them from the bank that they want to verify, plus they're going to take another 2 days, to check this off. I think that would have just taken that frustration level a whole couple levels down. Have you guys considered any of that or looked into any of that, or does that happen already? But
I think that the staff at NAU do their best to try to explain to persons what the process is. I do understand and appreciate that sometimes it is some miscommunication or misunderstanding on persons' part, but that's part of the reason that DCO and I are here today, because we want to ensure that the information is getting out to the public. And a couple of weeks ago, DCO and the director from NAU was also on one of the local talk shows as well. And that was much more focused on NAU and shared some specific information. We will be doing ongoing media release, and we will also be very open to coming back on talk shows, whether it's this one or any of the other local talk shows, to continuously share information, because we appreciate how important it is to have that information, to be able to communicate with persons and give them accurate information. So whether it is persons picking up the phone and calling the ministry or calling the department directly, or whether it is through series of media release, those are all aspects that we are looking at, because we want to ensure that the accurate information is out there. The messages that we are trying to get out is very clear with everyone. And so however we can cover that, we will be happy to do so.
And I think the CEO's point is very valid, particularly if we're talking about changing the legislation, because I think there's two aspects of what you've said. So if there are going to be changes, what I would envision the working group doing is preparing, like, say, FAQs in really simple terms as to what the changes are and what's going to be required of you. So there's two aspects of what you said. It's one, it being clear exactly what the requirements are. That's one thing. So that should be known to everybody. The second thing is the timing and what work needs to be done to complete those requirements also needs to be clear to reduce that frustration level that you spoke of.
Well, I appreciate you giving that response, because I think it definitely shed light for persons who are applying. Well, what happens, because I think there's a common misconception that once you apply for NAU services, that the NAU staff is just sitting down twiddling their thumbs until somebody checks a box and signs a check.
I have a different perception. See, I think that there's only this amount of staff and this amount of demand and then limited resources. Now,
right.
I guess it depends on where you sit.
That's right.
But how do we get to a point where we as a public understand the services, understand how we can contribute towards it? And maybe one day, Mr. Ebanks said earlier that he would like to see where you have less and less clients. You imagine a community, the safest community is one that doesn't need a police. Right? If we don't have no need for police because nobody's breaking the law, nobody's doing anything illegal. Wow.
Sounds like a lot of unemployment, Sterling.
No,
I know what you mean.
Right?
I know what you mean.
That's how my father described Cayman when he was growing up.
Beer land and police,
yeah. But see, and the reason why I said it's not to move people on, but because I think that if we can be responsible for ourselves and each other, so that we're doing the right thing and we're helping out, that's where the advancement comes. Now, you saw the signal from Miss Susan. No, she's not pointing to the star in the sky and say, hey, look at Santa. That means we got to hit the break. When we come back, we continue the discussion with our chief officer and the deputy in here. Jeffy, you too? Yeah. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brack to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Just before 2:30 this morning, police were sent to a report of a robbery that took place at the Esso gas station located on North Church Street. A man broke the glass door of the gas station and entered waving what appeared to be a firearm. Police say he stole the cash register with money inside. The man ran away from the gas station into the Watlers Road area and made his escape. No shots were fired and no one was injured. The matter is under investigation. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, North Korea has returned 55 boxes believed to contain the remains of U.S. troops killed during the Korean War, but it included just one military identification tag. A forensic expert said initial tests showed the remains were likely to be American. The boxes are en route from South Korea to Hawaii for extensive examination. More than a week after the deaths of at least 91 people in wildfires on the Greek coast, a catalogue of errors by local authorities have emerged. Police set up diversions for drivers that sent them into the path of the fire. That's according to one senior expert. A separate study has found that no alarm was raised and residents and tourists had no chance to flee. The Greek government blamed arsonists for causing the fire. And Australian researchers say for the first time an entire city has been protected from viral disease dengue. Captive-bred mosquitoes with a naturally occurring bacterium were released in the city of Townsville, where they mated with local mosquitoes. By spreading the bacteria, Wolbachia, which hinders dengue transmission, the city has been dengue-free since 2014. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And you know, Jeff, as we sit here and chat, sometimes we don't really appreciate that. For our chief officer and, you know, the DCO, this isn't just a reprieve from the office, because as long as you spend time with us, that means I know how much longer before you get to leave your desk this evening. So very, very, very grateful to that. But I think it's going to help, Jeff, as you shared, to inform the public, to involve them, to help them to appreciate that. Whether it's legislation that's going to be amended, whether it's new legislation that's going to be introduced, whether there's policy changes or potential programming. If we as a public understand, well, you know, what is it that we're doing? I don't say this to disrespect nor disparage the political elected by any means. If they were here now, I may joke with them and they might say, oh, that's just not funny. But it's not about them, all sincerity. You know, they get up in the mornings because they want to, in their minds, do the best thing. But it's the technicians, the civil servants, day in and day out, who are doing, you know, the daily grind, as it were, and supporting those policies. I set out to ask in an instance, for people who may be just joining us, and we're talking about potentially amending laws or the like, for them to understand that it's still policy, it's still the politicians. It's one's, how does that work? I mean, where is the distinction lie, where the lines start to blur? Mr. Legislative Counsel?
You mean in terms of...
Okay, yeah. So let me help you. So sometimes I realize that, you know, my understanding and application sometimes not the same as others, but we understand what our politicians do. We appreciate the roles that they play. We only probably see them publicly at work, as it were, in the Legislative Assembly, all other things that go on. But laws that may be introduced or amended policies are probably things that they bring to their chief officer, if it's the ministers, or somehow bring to their group and say, listen, can we look at this? Then that trickles down throughout, and then eventually it gets sent back up to the top for, I guess, policy. With this now, the drivers of it, within the service or within the elected sphere?
Both.
Yeah.
Oh, and definitely, I think that it's about good working relationships. As we indicated earlier, it's about us identifying certain issues, certain areas where we have gaps in the system, and not waiting for our minister or for our councillor to bring it to our attention. There are certain things that minister or councillor might very well be aware of because they're hearing it on a day-to-day basis, but we should not, as a ministry, as departments, we should not have to wait for it to be driven from the top down. It should be about good working relationships. It's about identifying where we have gaps and working together to ensure that we're covering these areas and filling these gaps. Earlier on, you spoke about keeping the public informed. Again, I want to pick up on that because it's not only about the public being informed, but it's also about the public being involved. I said earlier when I made my comments that we as a government or we as a ministry cannot do this on our own. And I re-emphasize that because we are only one small body and everybody in our community plays a role. And so, when we provide programs or when we establish certain projects or when we have certain activities, we rely on private sector and organizations to get involved with us and to contribute, whether it is the contribution from a financial perspective or whether they actually come out and help us with the projects and become very, very involved and be an ongoing sponsor to some of these projects. But it's about us working together, and that holistic approach is what we're going to need to truly see the changes take place.
And I think I appreciate you sharing that because that holistic approach to your reference gives us as the general public probably more so than in any other jurisdiction, the opportunity to get involved directly, to be able to help from the political perspective shape policy or to inform policy or to somehow change, amend, introduce, make better these things that are going to affect us. Right, Mr. Ebanks?
I couldn't agree more, and this is where we have an advantage of being small. It shouldn't be that difficult to reach the stakeholders you are. I mean, if you look around at other pieces of legislation in other countries, like, say, infamous Obamacare, you can imagine across 50 states for them to pass a healthcare law would have been a massive undertaking. Here, the island of our size and population, it shouldn't be that difficult to get the feedback and the buy-in of the stakeholders in the public. So it's hugely important because, as you know, as a civil servant, it's rare to think of an example of a subject area that's solely the remit of just one department. Something that they're going to change will either affect law, so they're going to have to bring legal in. It'll impact some other stakeholder. It might impact someone in the public. So in order for you to design something that's going to work holistically, you're going to have to consult widely.
And speaking of that joint approach, I want to take this opportunity to speak about some community presentations that we will be doing throughout the month of August and into September. I am very, very pleased to be able to partnership with the Alex Panton Foundation to provide some information to the community as it relates to self-harm and suicidal tendencies. These are subject matters that are very saddening, and it's not on a happy note that we are having to focus on these areas, but it is indeed necessary. And we feel that by having these community presentations, we're taking a preventative measure as opposed to waiting. We have parents, we have professionals, we have adults in general that are unfortunately just not able to identify some of these things in its early stages. But we do sadly have some of our children, some of our teenagers, our young people that are self-harming, that have suicide tendencies. And again, we want to do the best that we can to get information out to the community. So the Alex Panton Foundation have They're amazing. It's an amazing foundation, and they have very willingly agreed to join with the ministry. Our first presentation will be next week. And that will be in Georgetown at the South Sound Community Center. And it's on the 7th of August at 6:30 in the evening. We will be posting all of the dates out for the public to be very much aware of. But again, for the benefit of the public, we will be hosting presentations in the various districts. So on the 15th of August, we will be in West Bay. At the John Gray Memorial Church. On the 29th of August, we will be in Bordentown at the Bordentown Civic Center. And then on the 5th of September, we are planning on being in Northside at the Northside Civic Center. And then last but definitely not least, on the 19th of September, we will be in Easton at the Easton Civic Center. Again, we will ensure that this information is posted, it's put in the newspaper, it's shared on the various radio bulletins so that the public will be very much aware of this information. But should anyone want additional information or want additional clarity, they can also call the ministry, and we are happy to provide them with information. But we would invite the public to please come out. Again, it's not only is it somebody in my family that's having some challenges, but it's about being our brother's keeper. And we are interacting with young people and children on a daily basis, whether it is our own children's friend, our children themselves, whether it's at church, whether it is just simply going to the movies and observing people. We are seeing persons. And so again, it is about how can we get this information out and do the best that we can to prevent some of these issues from happening. So I am again wanting to say a special thank you to the Alex Panton Foundation for the amazing work that they're doing and for their willingness to join forces with us and to get information out to the public.
That is a topic that is near and dear to me, and so I just want to commend you guys for taking that on. And I know that I can make the first one, and so I definitely would like to support it. And I hope that everyone comes out and just please put it on Facebook because it is so important. And it, I know a lot of people who suffer from that, and they could definitely use this. So just a commendation to you all.
Thank you.
6:30 next Tuesday at the South Sound.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we have them scheduled to come on, but this is where I think the community gets involved, starts to appreciate that we are a brother's keeper, start to understand that what impacts one affects all of us to varying degrees, and that community that is strong is because it's a community that works together. And as we look at going forward, perhaps when we come back from the final break, look at the continued vision of perhaps the ministry. Maybe look at some ways of which those out there who may want to help. We're an evolving society. There are people who, strangely enough, don't understand that they can use their wealth to create a legacy that affects the country, not just through individual efforts, but through communal impact. For those who are listening, we invite you to be a part of the discussion and ask you to stay tuned and join us after the break.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Did you know that garbage containers must be accessible to DEH collection crews at all times? They must not be placed in a manner that will impede the flow of traffic. Garbage bins must instead be stored in enclosures that are either placed at the front of the property or at the side that is accessible to collectors from the roadway. To prevent injury to collection crews, kindly ensure that your enclosure has an access gate. For more tips on proper waste handling, please visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
JN Money, in association with Roma United Sports Club, presents the official Jamaica Independence celebrations under the distinguished patronage of the Honorary Jamaican Council on Friday, August 3rd. The celebration starts with the Culture Day downtown on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come out for breakfast and stay for lunch. Join Radio Cayman this Friday from 10 a.m. until noon.
Jamaica getting their independence, and everyone is happy
as we broadcast live from Cardinal Avenue during the day session of the official Jamaica Independence Celebration. 89.9 FM Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us as we continue with the good company of Jevi Ebanks. Boy, Jevi, you're going to have to put off your plans and come back tomorrow the next day, man.
Yeah, it don't work like that.
It don't work like that.
That's cool.
That's cool. Well, we're glad that you were able to join us as we were able to now welcome the Chief Officer and the Minister of Community Affairs, Mr. Richard Neke, and the Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Andre Ebanks. You know, a community that is supportive and nurturing, that holds each other accountable, but expect people to be responsible, but provides them with an opportunity that they can, uplift themselves. That they can feel a sense of safety and security. But they also must understand that they have to be involved, as you said, Madam Chief Officer. You're not just sitting there, you've got to be involved. Here's the information, here's the opportunity. You provided much through the Ministry of Community Affairs, so hopefully we'll reach out more as individuals and as entities. Now, for the remaining segment, I know there's some good things coming up and some previews. Share with us as you wish.
Sure. The month of October, as you're very much aware, is identified as the Older Persons Month. So throughout that entire month, there's ongoing activities that we have for our older persons, and that will be taking place. We're in the we're finalizing the preparations for that now, and an overall agenda should be coming out very, very soon with all of the activities. It is usually a lot of fun, a lot of energy. It's absolutely amazing how persons in their 70s and 80s can be dancing and singing and performing and enjoying themselves. And I'm thinking, where did you get all of that energy? But it's an amazing time, and it is an opportunity for us to also say a special thank you to persons at that age. They're the foundation for our island. If it was not because of our older persons, we might not be where we are today. The men that went to sea, the women that stayed home and made our country what it is today, they gave us a solid foundation to stand on. And so we're able to continue to grow and develop because of them. And this month of activity is just a way of saying to our older persons a special thank you for who you are and for your contribution to our Cayman Islands. So that will be taking place throughout the entire month, both in Grand Cayman as well as our sister islands, and that overall schedule will be shared with everyone. It will be in the newspaper, it will be on Facebook. I'm sure it'll come through the radios as well for the various announcements. So that is one of the things that we will be having for the month of October. The other project that we have before the end of this year as well is a very special project near and dear to my heart, and it's called Home for Christmas. I'm sure that everybody enjoys and get all excited when Christmas time rolls around, and it's just an exciting and fun time, and you see that spirit come out. We're starting this project a little bit earlier because we are expanding one of our homes. For the benefit of the public, right now we have a home that's called the Maple House, and that facilitates services, residential services for disabled children. It is a need for us to expand those services, and because of the age range that is within the facility, it's also necessary for us to have a separate home for our younger children that are disabled. We have the benefit, and a special thank you to our government of the day for purchasing a home in the northward area, but we still have the responsibility to fit that home out and get it ready for our disabled children to be able to utilize it, appreciating that their needs are special, and so we have to fit the facility out to meet their needs. So we will be having some major fundraiser during the month of September. But in addition to that, again, speaking about that holistic approach and speaking about joining up with private sector, we would invite the private sector to come out and to join us and to maybe sponsor a particular area within that home. It might be that one of the entities decide that they will take on full responsibility for the yard and for the special equipment that is needed in that area, or an agency might want to sponsor one of the bedrooms. It is not as simple as saying, we have a house, let's move our children in there. It's about making it user-friendly to meet their needs and to ensure that it is equipped for growth and development of these children. One might say, well, why aren't these children within their own homes? And again, I want to take the opportunity to speak very briefly on that. Ideally, we would like our children to all be within their own homes and to be with their family, and we support that as much as we possibly can. But there are circumstances where, in the best interest of some of our children, it is necessary for us to accommodate them in our facilities. By also expanding, it allows for parents to get respite. There might be time when parents are traveling, or they might be something that they're faced with at that particular time that they might need just a wee break, maybe for a weekend. Such a facility will be able to accommodate those options. So again, this is one of the projects that we have ongoing, and if anyone in private sector is interested in sponsoring this project, sponsoring a room, sponsoring the yard, please get in contact with us at the ministry. We're happy to partner with you, and we're looking forward to getting this facility up and running before Christmas so that our children can go home to their new facility for Christmas.
Home for Christmas.
Wow. Home for Christmas.
Yeah, amazing.
I think too, that's probably part of that idea of being involved and informed, is that in our communities we don't always appreciate, whether it's our elderly or whether sometimes those who may have some disability, the way they move about a space, even their own spaces, their particular needs. We take for granted because we have all our faculties. We don't suffer from any kind of disability, so a step is just a step. A flat surface is a flat surface. But for others, it may not be the same. As we wrap up our discussion, perhaps first, Mr. Ebanks, as we look at, the vision and the passion and the future, the Ministry of Community Affairs, as we look at not just the different agencies within it, we know by no stretch of the imagination the NAU and the CFS. Probably some would say they're understaffed and overtaxed. There's so much that goes on. Share with us what we as a people can do so that from the very bottom of the grass straight up we can do more to be healthier, to be more impactful in our communities.
I think it's about what my father used to describe about getting back to being a community, because we're just so busy, so many of us. I mean, I can count how many times just this year my immediate family has gotten together because everybody's going in different directions. So I think it's more us stopping and pausing to think about how you can lay a helping hand. We're trying to put in programs in place and change legislation, but also take a moment at time as just an ordinary citizen to think about how can I step up? Maybe I can attend some of the functions that have been mentioned. Maybe I can contribute financially if I'm unable to attend. When we start to consult on legislation and policy, feel free to give us your contributions, because don't be afraid to raise problems. We're here to hear them. We aren't going to be able to fix things if people don't bring things forward. So I don't think any of us are shying away from constructive criticism. We need it. And otherwise, we're not going to be able to move things forward and to have continuous moving forward. So even if we do get to the stage in 8 months, 12 months where we actually have passed legislation, we shouldn't be afraid as a country to say, you know what, actually, this provision isn't working. We need to amend this. We need to amend this process as we see it's rolled out and continue evolving as a country.
I like that. The idea that we're working together to make it better for all of us. And, this greater good, common good, sometimes isn't as talked about or championed as it should be. Ms. Teresa.
Oh, wow. I'm not sure where the time went. I thought we're here until how long? Will we be able to talk as much to cover this? And indeed, we could stay even longer. Again, as Andre said, it's a work in progress, and we are continuously looking at how we can enhance our services, but how we can better work with the community as well. We welcome the community to become very much involved with all of the projects that we're doing, with all of the activities that we have ongoing. Our work do not stop at 5 o'clock. It do not stop on Friday. We have residential facilities that are 24/7. If persons truly want to get involved, then just reach out to us, and we would be happy for support and for help as well. But again, it's some things as basic as, knowing who your neighbor is and reaching out to them if you see them struggling. Sometimes we don't need to know these things as a government. If you know that your neighbor is struggling and you can help them, please indeed reach out. Let's rekindle and rebuild that Cayman kind, and ensure that we continuously build on it and just not say it, but it becomes very, very real. It was not uncommon as a child for me to know my neighbors and for us to go next door and to borrow things from each other if we ran out. Oh, I need a little bit of sugar. Oh, I forgot to pick this up from the supermarket. And now, yes, I appreciate that things have changed, but sometimes we don't even know who our neighbors are. So it's truly about, how do we build relationships and continue to support each other, so that the small problems do not become mountains. So we will do the best as government to contribute and to ensure that we are doing all that we can for our country, but everyone plays a role.
Indeed, man. Well, Jerry, what are we doing? You 3 Pete,
I love everything they said. I stand behind everything Miss Teresa said a while ago.
Well, we want you to have a wonderful rest of the couple of days here as you get your suntan, get your fill of the Cayman food, and get ready for that brutal, nasty weather that you're going to face out there.
Don't remind me now, but thank you so much.
Change is good, Javi.
Yeah, no sun.
I know, right? We'll see. We'll see.
Well, at least you got curry to look forward to.
Hey, I do love Indian food.
No, man. It's going to be a great time.
Thank you.
And when you're back, if I'm here, you can always pop in, all right?
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
I think Susan was going to arrange for you to be able to actually do some remote broadcasts while you're up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
So she's going to work it out.
All right.
Mr. Ebanks, thanks so much for joining us. Ms. Teresa, equally, thank you both. And commend you, as Jeff shared, for your passion and enthusiasm for the wilderness and the service and sacrifice, but equally, hopefully, to the appeal to the community that we can come on board and together make it better. It's not about, sort of looking at the differences to divide us. Let's find ways that we can, work towards that common goal of making a better society. Hey, to our listeners, tomorrow's Thursday. We want you to be a part of it, and certainly invite you to be part of Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. If you call Susan and request a song that she can't play, then that'll be a strange one because she probably knows all the songs. So give her a WhatsApp, give her a shout, give her something to do. No, just kidding. Until tomorrow, be blessed.